Hi Fiber Art friends, this is Heather with CrewFiberArts, and this is a video tutorial to show you how to do the stockinette stitch. I'm also going to go over the long tail cast on, and I'll be moving through tutorials as long as I keep getting subscribers. So please subscribe to my channel so I can continue to make these videos to teach you how to do different knit stitches and fiber art, you know, just all things fiber art. So I wanted to show you this swatch that I knitted up. I'm using some sort of, it's called the drop stitch, and I'll be creating a tutorial on that later, but I wanted to show you this because it's already kind of knitted up. And this right here, this portion is called stockinette, and it's where you're knitting and purling across, you know, across each row. So you'll knit one row and then purl the next row, creating this nice flat beautiful design. But the other portion where you see the green, and these are called drop stitches. Anyways, okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Before I begin though, I want to tell you, I always want to know about what kind of yarn everyone is using. This is probably one of my favorite yarns. You can get it at any of your local yarn shops normally carry it, and this is the information on the yarn. It is another superwash merino wool, and it just feels great on your hands. And every time I knit with it or I crochet with it, I just don't want to stop. Like, I'll start and I just can't put it down. But this is the information on it. I am using a size 10 knitting needle, which is a little bit bigger than what it is saying to use. I mean, I guess I just don't really, it doesn't really matter for this tutorial. It does make your stitches a little bit looser. As you can see, if I pull on the yarn, it is a little bit looser than what it probably should be. But for this tutorial, I'm going to use these size 10 knitting needles. And the information's on the back as well. Like I said, you can get this at pretty much any local yarn shop. And or I believe you can order it online. I always like to visit my local yarn shops to pick up, you know, some new or some yarn that I just haven't tried yet. And like I said, this one is probably one of my favorites. I've gotten it at a couple of different yarn shops. There's one in Asheville that I've picked it up at in a green color, and then there's a yarn shop here in South Carolina, and that I picked this color up at. And anyway, so let's go ahead and get started. So step one, first of all, I usually cast on using the long tail cast on. It's just a very I don't want to say it's a very workable cast on. There are so many other cast ons. This is one of the ones that I first learned, and there are some easier ones and then there's some harder ones. So but like I said, this one's the long tail cast on. So what you do is you first create a slip knot. So it's just like in crochet where you're creating your chain. So make an X, pull the loop through, and if you've truly created a slip knot, you should be able to pull it off like that. So I'm going to go through it one more time. So you hold the yarn in your left hand, and then pull the yarn kind of tight and make an X with it. And then you're going to reach around underneath and pull through the loop, creating your slip knot. All right, this slip knot goes into your needle. And now you've got what is called the tail. Let me pull up this. Okay, let me see. You've got your tail, which is the end of your yarn where it's been cut. So the tail, my tail seems like it's really long, and it is kind of long, but the tail is where the yarn has been cut. It's called the tail, and then the working yarn is the yarn that's attached to the ball. So that's how I'm going to be referring to the two pieces. So you're going to take your working yarn and your tail, and you're going to create a V shape using your loop here. So the first thing you're going to do with the cast on, you're going to loop around. So as you make your V, you're going to have the yarn pulled through on either side, holding it with your pinky finger and your ring finger down below. That's how I hold it. You're gonna bend down and scoop up the yarn that's wrapped around your thumb. And then this is where it gets tricky. You're going to go around the yarn on your pointer finger and you're going to pull it through here. And that's going to be your very first long tail cast on. Then you'll pull it tight, not too tight, but you'll pull it on, and now you have 2 casted on. The slip knot counts as a 1. Okay, let's do that again. So you're going to scoop up and around and over like that. All right, so you can pause the video and replay it as many times as you want. I'm going to go through and cast on maybe 15. So I've got 3 right now. So I've got 1. So right now I've got 5. Now I should have 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And there's the long tail cast on. Once you get comfortable with it, it just kind of goes. But the reason why I like the long tail cast on, because it leaves this nice braided edge on the bottom. There's another cast on too, and I may post it separate from this video. It's just this is just one that I'm most comfortable with. It's the one I've been using since the very beginning. Okay, all right, let's go ahead and start with a knit stitch. So we're gonna move on into the knit stitch. Okay, so, and every time I cast on, I make it so tight. So let's say that you are new to knitting. What I have my students do is they place the 2 knitting needles together and I cast onto that, because some students, when you're first learning, you make it so tight that it's hard to do the knit stitch, and you know, that makes it a little bit more difficult when you're first learning. Okay, all right, so what I do is I hold my working yarn in my left hand, and this is called continental. Some people hold it in their right hand, or whatever their dominant hand is, and wrap it around as they knit. I do not do that. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to go ahead and stick the needle, the right hand needle, underneath the loop, making an X. And this is where, if you were going to use your dominant hand, you'd wrap it around and pull it through. Okay, but I knit, like I said, I knit continental, and I'm going to go ahead and move that working yarn. You move that working yarn to my left hand, so that I can quickly scoop up and complete that knit stitch. So there's 1, 2 knit stitches, and again, so we're going to knit all the way across. And I'm going to suggest, if you are new to knitting, this is what I did. One day I just sat down, and I think it took me a couple of hours to get comfortable with continental. Continental knitting is when you hold your yarn in your non-dominant hand, and it is very, 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 very easy once you spend the time to get your hands comfortable with it. If you crochet, you already do this. Okay, or more than likely you already do this. You already have your hands, so it's an easy transition to do continental knitting. All right, so we're going to knit all the way across, and this would be considered the right side row when you're knitting. And again, this is stockinette. And there we go. So you've completed your first row and your cast on row. All right, now I'm going to turn my work, and my work is in my left hand now. And I'm going to go ahead and take my yarn, and this is where you're going to complete the purl stitch. So in knitting, the 2 basic stitches that you could learn are knitting and purling. Okay, we just did a knit stitch. Now we're going to do a purl stitch, where you'll see the little bumps. Those are called purl bumps, versus the knit stitch where it makes like a little V. Okay, and when you're doing stockinette, you knit the knits and purl the purls. So I'm going to stick my needle through so that it's coming towards me this time. Okay. And I'm making an X, but it's coming towards me. And then I'm going to wrap the yarn around my needle and pull it through. And then I'm going to continue to purl across like this. Oh, somehow I have a knot right there. I'm going to just go ahead and continue with that. Sorry, little guy. All right, so what I've discovered, or what I've learned so far, and I'm not saying it's the right way or the wrong way. I'm just coming from a perspective of someone who is fairly new to knitting. If you can learn how to continental knit, it just, I don't know, it just opens up doors. Some people swear by, I guess it's called English style. I don't remember the name, but some people just are super quick with that. But I know whenever I learned how to continental, it was like projects just started like going by so much faster. And I just sat down one day and I just was like, okay, I'm going to learn how to do this. I'm going to get my hands comfortable with this. And I did. I sat down pretty much all day, and I just was like, I was just knitting. I just knitted in the round, and I made this like tube, and that's all I did. I just practiced continental. Okay, all right. So as you can see, we did a purl row. Now we're going to turn our work, and we're going to do a knit row, and that's all we're going to do, back and forth. And there's stockinette. That's like one of the basic stitches. Stockinette and garter stitch are like your two basic stitches. So now I'm going to knit this row. And if you knit this in the round, like if you are knitting like a tube or like like sleeves or socks or something like that, and you're knitting in the round, if they're connected, you just have to knit all the way around and it will create that stockinette stitch. But if you were to like knit back and forth without purling, it creates garter stitch, where it has more of a bounce and it's more like plush. This one lays more flat. I mean, it lays flat. The stitch does. And there we go. And I just love this yarn. It's so squishy and it's nice. It doesn't matter if it ends up in the washer or anything like that, because it's a super wash or the dryer. I've thrown this one in the washer before, and it came out looking just fine. Like it looks still as pretty as it did when I first crocheted or knitted whatever item up. So with this yarn, usually what happens is I'll make somebody a scarf and give it away. So I don't have any products to show you that I've made other than in a tutorial I made my mini cardigan, the Team Spirit cardigan, and you can find that cardigan on Etsy, like the pattern for it, or if you just want me to make you one, there's a pattern and there's opportunity for you to buy one. But I made a mini one, and so I made it out of this yarn because I thought it was so pretty, and I added like some green in there, and I show you how to do this mini one in the tutorial. So what I recommended in the tutorial is that you make a mini one, and my girls are like, Mom, will you please just sew in the ends so that we can play with this? But it fits a Barbie like perfectly if you use the yarn that I picked out. And so they always take this and put it on their Barbies. And I do need to sew in the ends, and I do need to fix the underarms, but I just haven't yet. Anyway, so we are purling across. So this would be considered the wrong side row, and so on. All right, so this is how you would do stockinette stitch. And that's pretty much it. That's it, guys. Like, this is like the basics. So once you learn how to do this, you can just like, you will be good to make whatever you want to make. Whatever. Once you master the stockinette. And I'm going to finish this row. I'm going to finish my coffee. I hope you come back. Please subscribe to my videos. I would love to make more tutorials, and, show you what I know how to do. If anybody has any suggestions down in the chat, please feel free to comment, or just like support through my channel, ring that bell, and like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Okay, thank you for joining me. Thank you for coming to my channel. Check out my Etsy shop, and I hope you have a great day.